sexy. You can see from the
I'm in the
title,
back
it's
room.
more of a love album.
We still engaged. When he's ready to go, it'll say your mic is unmuted.
Welcome to another week of Manversations 2020. I'm so excited because I have some great special guests for you guys tonight. This is probably one of the most important shows of the year because I felt like it was a need for us to protect ourselves, coming up in the near future, especially how this world and the economy is evolving right now. There's going to be desperate times coming in our very near future. And I think it's very important for not only men to protect their family, but also women to protect their family as well. This is why we have a female instructor that is on with us tonight to help any questions that you have as far as ladies, you know, anything that you need familiarity with, or any suggestions, being that you're a woman, now getting into the realms of um, carrying a firearm or weapon and protecting yourself. You know, child trafficking and human trafficking has gone up, especially with a lot of these illegal immigrants, which are undocumented. Not here to basically um, condemn immigrants, but if you're undocumented and you're coming in and nobody knows your name or your identity because you're not into the system, then when the bad ones come in, they make it real bad for the good ones. So they can come in and snatch up our people. We don't know who they are. So it's very important for you guys to protect yourself away from any mischievous person or anybody with ill intent that might create harm or basically try to destroy your family by kidnapping them or anything else in that realm or nature. So with that being said, we definitely want to give you guys the information for you guys to protect yourself. And we have some great certified instructors that also, if you're in the region or area, that you can go out there and link up with them, get their personal contact, and start training with them as well. I know them. I know two of them personally, and they're super dope. Charles, as you guys know, I just met Charles recently, and from the feedback that I got, he's super dope as well. So you guys gonna get the best of the best on here tonight. When you see the accolades that they come with and the certifications that they come with, then you know you're in good hands. All right. All right. With that being said, fellas, everybody's good. I hope everybody's good. Let's get this ball rolling and cracking. All right. Where's my co-host? My co-host, Bobby Drake and Major. Y'all good? Everything good with y'all? All right. Cool. Let's get it cracking. All right. So I wanted to start off with Charles, right? So we're gonna go with Charles. You guys see Charles up top. Charles has his company called Custom Champion Firearms. As you know, that Charles is a certified instructor as well. Charles is um, he's a CEO of Champion Custom Firearms and Training, NRA and USCCA certified instructor. He is also a veteran. So his business is veteran owned and operated, and his business has been operating for 2007 since 2017, which is super dope. So I just want to give Charles his special shout out real quick.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Charles, where are you from? Where are you located at?
I'm in Miami. I do most of my training out of Pembroke Gun Range in Broward. So I service for the most part North Dade, South Broward.
Okay, cool. That's super dope. All right. Definitely gonna go to my next one, which is Aman. Aman is a super dope guy that I met recently. And he just got married to his woman, Mila, that we always talk about here on the show. And I thought that was super dope for him to come on and give us added training because he is a wonderful guy who's a protector, a provider, and you know we lead by example. So what better example than you have to have Aman Tekla? I am Hotep, right? Tequila, is it Tekla? Tequila? How you say
It's
that?
Takala.
Tekala.
Takala.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Aman Tekala. I am Hotep. He is a retired United States Marine. From he also was in the Iran and Afghan war. He is a veteran as well, primarily a military occupational specialist of Recon 0321. He's also had assignments as drill instructor, artillery instructor, and MACE, Martial Arts Center of Excellence. He's also served as a marksman instructor as well. This is the Anubis Gun Club. He does have a Facebook group. If you guys want to join in and get more information, you guys can log into that as well. And he also has a great backstory too, and I'll definitely let him bring that up later. And I'll go on to my next guest, which is James Holiday. James Holiday is a phenomenal guy. He's also on here with his wife. She's a little bit under the weather, so you guys can ask questions and she'll be in the back pretty much, giving the answers. And he can also answer as well. They're a duo. They've been doing their thing together. So James J. Holiday is the CEO of Taught and Loaded Firearms Education Academy. He is NRA certified firearms instructor as well. And his wife is Michelle Holiday, CEO of She Loaded Defense. You can follow her at She Loaded on IG and Facebook. She's specializing in defense weaponry for women. So that is super dope because, like I tell people all the time, representation matters. It matters. It matters when you see a little girl, when she looks up to another little girl, or she looks up to a grown woman, she sees herself in that image. So we want to make sure that everybody's covered. And we were so glad to have her on board to help with the ladies in any aspects of questions that women might have that men really too much typically don't have. All right. So with that being said, I definitely want to go back to Ahmad with his special, the backstory of how he left the army and then he went and felt like he needed to do more for his community, which he is doing a phenomenal job. So I'm gonna let him go ahead and tell you exactly what chapters he entered and what he's done with that. So Ahmad, you have the floor. Go ahead and let them know about that little backstory.
Thank you. Before I begin, my name is Abunta Kale Matepu. I have the honor and duty of being the national chairman of the Anubis Gun Club. We've been around since 2017. The backstory is as such. When I retired from the Marine Corps in 2010, I was just basically average everyday Joe, just wanted a job like everybody else, right? I didn't know. I have done work for the people. I've worked for people most of my life, but mine was limited to NAACP. I didn't know no better, and I mean it like that. Okay, so as as I transitioned out of the Marine Corps, I started noticing some things happening in the community that I haven't seen in 18 years of me being in the Marine Corps. You know, it comes to a point where you get brainwashed while you're in there if you're not careful, to the point where we're all the same or we're all alike. I had my little different tones of friends, if you know what I mean. And you get washed into that community. You see it in the military, but not as much as you see it outside the military. So as I was going through my things, I did hip hop music for a while too. So I'm doing that and I'm doing my regular job, minding my business. And I thought my purpose was to be a preacher because I come from 5 generations of them. So ended up being a youth pastor. And one sermon I gave was my last one, most important one, is I can no longer live a lie. I didn't write it. And I went and I preached that day and I just went out the dome. But I said some harsh truths about the church that day. How are we supposed to be helping black people when you're taking all the black people's money in the poor community? How are we supposed to be a shining example for Christians when you can't even respect each other inside the church? Blah, 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 right? So as I was driving home, my prayer was, I still remember, God, I'm really confused. Father, I wish you could give me some guidance. Well, that wasn't the answer I got. I heard a female voice before I went to bed. That messed me all up. But by the time I woke up, I was angry at the doggone world. This ain't a lie. This is verified. Okay. So I go on from there and I say, okay, well, if this ain't the walk I'm supposed to be in, what am I supposed to be doing to better our people? So I started by joining the new Black Panther Party. It's a good start, right? So I started doing that. I was on the Sister Crystal Muhammad in Houston, Texas. And I'm gonna say I parted ways with the new Black Panther Party on mutual grounds. Okay, because there were some things that were happening that didn't match what we were doing, if that makes sense. Okay, so I went from there and I joined an organization called the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. This is under Babu Mwala even today. And I started training with him, build a kind of a kinship with him. And I asked him one day, after based on what I've seen, I said, "Hey, is it okay if I structured a tactical support unit under the Huey P. Newton Gun Club because of the things that I'm seeing with not only police violence, but increased violence in the community as a whole? We need defenses." He said yes, and from there, the Nubis Gun Club was born 6 years later. We've done things like domestic violence rescues. We do teach firearms, martial arts, and things of that nature. But I've done 50 domestic violence rescues. We've done 9 missing persons locations and things of that nature. We've done many safeguard missions for African citizen speakers in the community and things of that nature also. So we've been busy. All right. So that is pretty much the backstory abbreviated because this is a good history. It's a long history. It's a proud history. So far as firearms, I homage to you brothers for being here. Homage to the sister that can't be on. I'm so glad to be able to have this discussion today because it baffles me as many guns that are in the doggone black community. When I hear black people say, "I'm scared of guns," Pookie and Ray Ray got a gun. You're not worried about him. Why are you afraid to have one of your own when you need to defend yourself, especially with what's about to happen in 2024? Thank you.
Oh, definitely. That's super dope. Yeah, when I read the background of what you was talking about, I felt like that was very commendable because I think we lose a lot of transition of why our ancestors started this in the first place. It was when you look at the Black Panther Party, when they started understanding the laws and realizing that I can hold my gun in public too, then they started to make sure that they change the laws up because they see once we're educated and we have that same power and that equal opportunity of rights, then we become exactly more dangerous for them because now we get to protect ourselves in a legal form and they don't want us to do that. So when I saw that and I saw you entered that and you're doing things for your community, that's one thing that I preach about. I don't know. Our ancestors never had the opportunity to go out here and have fun. They didn't have the time to go in the club and party and sleep and just let BS just keep rolling on. They had to fight through Jim Crow. They had to fight through segregation. They had to fight through systematical racism, and they did all of that, and they actually achieved a lot of things in the process. And we don't even go through half of what they went through, and we're losing a lot. We're regressing real bad under the impression that we are progressing. That illusion is definitely being Achilles heel to the Black community, especially. So I want to make sure that we did this program to help our people establish some form of protection and not be afraid of guns, like you said earlier, and to make sure that we have the knowledge and what we need to protect ourselves. Not only that, we always talked about Black Wall Street and building back Black Wall Street. And one of the things that people talked about Black Wall Street is that our ancestors let them burn it down because we didn't protect it. We didn't protect ourselves. We didn't have the ammunition and things like that, which was a false narrative. But if you want to go along with that premises, then now is the time for us to learn that. So that way, when we build our Black Wall Streets back, we won't have those issues. All right. So it's easy for us to blame the past, but it's up to us to control the future. So that's what we're doing here. This is what we want you guys to get the information, and we have phenomenal instructors with great credentials and backgrounds to help you gain that. So this is why we always tell you, whatever questions you have, answer it, ask them, and they'll answer it for you. If they don't have the answers, they'll lead you in the right direction to go get the answers. So this is why we wanted to bring this program here. I want to get into Charles because Charles I want you to give your little backstory as well, because you are also a veteran as well. And let us know how that helped you out into getting into being an instructor yourself.
So funny enough, my military background didn't lead me to being an instructor. You know,
Okay.
gave me the initial skills, but had no initial bearing on what it is I do now. It's beneficial now, you know what I mean? But initially, I wasn't a part of it. So I actually started the training portion of my company, because Champion Custom Firearms. I was just building and customizing firearms for people. Cerakoting, laser engraving, all the cool stuff, all the guns you see with colors and designs. That was me. And in doing that, people kept coming up to me saying, "Are you an instructor? Do you know where I can find one?" So on and so forth. And, you know, I would help people out with things here and there, but never thought of going the instructor route. And one day I just got tired of hearing and seeing a lot of us just not knowing where to go in the firearms industry. You know, you be in the range, and when people go in to ask questions, they get the cold shoulder, or they sell them garbage and then say, "Hey, yeah, get this." You know what I mean? So that's how I started my company. I took it upon myself to really just educate our people in all areas of the firearm industry, whether it be purchasing, how to properly use, you name it. That's what got me going in what I'm doing now. And really, it's one of the best decisions I can make, because I've heard stories where a lot of the young guys that I've instructed, some of the things that I taught them in terms of dealing with law enforcement, especially, you know, now in Florida, we don't have to have a concealed weapons license, but that just passed. So many people were getting arrested just for not having, or having their gun on them without a concealed weapons license. I mean, in the car. So now you're a convicted felon and you didn't even do anything with your legally purchased firearm. So just little things like that kind of stirred something in me, and I'm like, "Nah, I need to help out with this." And here I am.
Awesome. I'm glad you're here with us. Like I said, you guys are a powerful group of individuals. And I hope the people, everybody that's watching, ask the questions, put them in the chat. If you're a woman, put them in the chat. You see the brothers here, but we also have a woman instructor in the background. So put those questions in there. You're going to get them answered. Remember, your teacher always said the dumbest question that you don't ask is the one you don't ask, right? So make sure you put those questions in there to get the information that you need to get so you can move yourself forward. I think a lot of times we don't understand that when people put things together that is free, because right now you guys are on their time. These brothers work hard. They have things to do. So for them to take out their time right now to educate and make sure that our brothers and sisters have the information and are steered in the right direction, this is huge. This is gold. This is bartering right now. They're bartering their time to give you the information so you can protect your family. I want to get into James Holiday, and give us your story of what made you want to be an instructor and help out your community.
For me, I mean, as you read, I don't have any previous military background. Um, College, I mean, I played ball. That's pretty much where I come from as far as college. But college is where it kind of stirred me into the direction of being an instructor, not necessarily a firearms instructor. What got me, what really kind of pointed me into the direction of educating people is knowing what you don't know. I had a professor, in one of my college classes, and she graded uh, our material. She graded our tests on a curve. I don't know if y'all remember that. And they said, "Well, I graded you on a curve because that's how bad the whole class did, in order to help boost your grade." And she asked me, I think my grade was a C by the time she finished grading on the curve. And she asked me once the class was over, "Are you satisfied with your class?" I mean, with your grade. And I told her, I said, yeah, I'm satisfied. This helped push me past where I need to go. She said, young man, and she was a black woman. She said, young man, oftentimes we accept what we don't deserve.
Mm,
Oftentimes we take freely what is given freely. She said, but you need to know what you don't know. Whatever
mm,
you know is great, but the things that you don't know, the things that are hidden, are the things you need to, expose. So, as a 19, 20-year-old kid, I took that to heart. Now, I'm 48 years old. That's one of my favorite stories to tell, primarily, especially when I get people into my classes and talk to them. Um,
mm,
Even as recent as the whole constitutional carry now in Florida, people are taking well advantage of the fact that they don't need to have a permit
mm,
to walk around in Florida, which is correct, which is great. But they still need to know what they don't know. Most of them don't know where they can and where they can't carry. They don't
mm,
know how they can and how they can carry. Most don't even know how to transport it in a vehicle without being in trouble. So there are still things that can get them in trouble, though they're free to walk around with them. If they walk inside a post office, not knowing that they weren't supposed to take that in the federal property, they're gonna be in trouble. So they still need to know what they don't know. So what led me into being a firearms instructor is the fact that um, teaching is somewhat in my DNA on most levels, but I love guns. I grew up loving guns. I grew up shooting with my cousins and uncles in Georgia. I'm from Miami. I'm now in
mm,
Boynton Beach, Florida. And I train everywhere from Dade County up to Palm Beach County. Um, but it is training people, getting them comfortable with firearms. The brother said earlier about, there's a lot of people in our community, which is so true. I'm sure we all hear it. They say I'm uncomfortable around guns, and I don't want my children exposed to it. They don't think outside the box that your kids may not be exposed to a gun in your home, but when they go to their cousin's house, when they go to their friend's house, whose parents um, may not be as responsible as real gun owners, responsible gun owners, and leave the gun right on the table. Maybe they'll
mm,
see it in school with a friend and not know how to react to it. So they don't think outside the box. They're uncomfortable. They're only uncomfortable because
mm.
they're not exposed to it, because they're
Correct.
not being taught about it. I'm pretty sure all the brothers on this panel would agree with me when I say if you expose somebody to something, it kind of levels the playing field. At least it puts them at ease. And what strengthens their background regarding it is continuous practice and getting more familiar with it. It's like meeting somebody new. You don't know them until you get used to them. So you got to give it a try. So that's what I would say. So pretty much primarily what got me into guns is the fact that I love guns. I've shot all kinds of guns. Um, like, most instructors, they have more than one. So I'm one of those type of people that have more than one. I
Mm,
won't count, but I got enough to keep them off me. Let's put it that way.
mm,
Um, uh, and hold off for a minute,
and hold on for a minute,
But
But
aside from that, that's
aside
where
from
my
that,
background
that's
comes
where
from,
my
the fact that I
background
love
comes from,
teaching
the
people.
fact that I love teaching people.
And children,
And
I'm a
children,
big advocate for
I'm a
taking
big
children.
advocate for children.
When there are children injuring themselves and hurting themselves due to not gun violence, but negligent gun handling, guns being laying around, that gets me the most. So when I teach my class, when people want to buy new guns, um, often I tell them, hey, listen, what goes along with gun safety hand in hand is gun storage. I never leave that out. They got to know, they got to be aware. So I just you got to know what you don't know. Most people don't think twice about buying some kind of speed vault. They just take that gun home in that plastic box that they sold at a gun store and tuck it under the sheets or in the closet somewhere. You got to be better than that. So that's my thing. I love to educate them.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Um, I do know that a lot of times people uh, are saying that they don't have the knowledge, they're not experienced, and they're kind of scared. And it's not just women, there's men that are scared to pick up a firearm as well. We have the sister Rose, the queen in the audience is asking, she says, my greatest fear is hurting myself, right? and she says, she said, my greatest fear is hurting myself with a gun. Do you all recommend training with rubber guns first or straight to the metal?
I recommend you can. There's nothing wrong with having a trainer to learn proper mechanics. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But the only way you're really gonna get used to a firearm is to put the firearm in your hand, pull the trigger, feel the recoil, feel how it moves in your hand. All right. So what I do is because I have a trainer also that I use, I do a lot of dry firing because I also compete. So with that being said, I have my pistol trainer and I constantly push out, push out. I check my mechanics, my wrist, my whole ratio and everything like that. That's what you need a rubber pistol for. But it's not going to teach you recoil. It's not going to teach you
Mm.
recoil management. It's not going to teach you to get used to that pop without flinching. Because the number one thing, I said it to every sister, and a lot of brothers. The first thing I tell them, you sight in on target? Yep. All right. Slow, steady, squeeze. And they'll do this. And I say, all right, now we're gonna do it again, but this time stop flinching because you just missed the whole target. So you can't get used to recoil unless you use the iron. So I say both at the same time. Start to get your mechanics first with the rubber, then transition over smoothly to the iron.
Hmm. Charles, what you think? What do you say?
So to piggyback on that, he's exactly right. In my classes, especially with new people, I do put a trainer in their hand, and once we start doing live fire, I normally start with a small caliber, 22.
Mhm.
So I'll give them 22 before we jump into 9 millimeter, and we do it that way, especially when it's somebody who's very nervous. I remember a student in particular I had. The the young lady had just come out of a domestic situation. So she comes, she's like, okay, I need to be able to protect myself in the event something happens again. But she was afraid of guns based on what she had gone through because a gun was involved. And that was one of the first times when I really felt in my heart like just wanting to do something for somebody. So we get to the part where, okay, we're done with the trainer. We're just working on learning how to align her sights. And she had the gun in her hand and tears just started coming down. You know what I mean? So it's the fear of the firearm, but also the fear of not knowing what to do with it. And she was just completely overwhelmed. So with new people, start slow because it's a process. You know, we all start somewhere, and the most important step is the first step. So start slow. If you have to go through a class and it's just with the trainer, nothing wrong with that. And then you follow up with the next one, and okay, we'll go with something smaller, 22 or whatever. Go over safety. You know, there's a lot more than just picking up the gun and pressing the trigger and shooting. You know, the safety aspect. Like Brother Amhotep said, just getting the proper grip and getting the right sight picture. I mean, that's a lot. So we can do a whole lot before a trigger gets pressed. You understand? So start small, but start more than anything. Start.
I would can you hear me out? Okay.
No,
I
no, go
would
ahead. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm sorry.
okay, good. And I guess I'm piggybacking off both of the brothers. I have trainers, but I don't use them because my class is a little bit different. When I bring a person in, whether they're new or intermediate or advanced, I treat every person that I train for the first time as though they know anything, right? As though they know nothing. And I explain that to them for one reason, because along the way you could have picked up some bad habits here or there, especially if you haven't been trained by a professional, right? So my trainer is an empty 22 that I use. Um, I like the Glock 44, right? And it is a compact 22, very, very light. no ammunition at all. The first thing that I do is teach them the anatomy of the pistol, all of the parts of the pistol, while we're standing in the range. Because what I want, my psychology is, I'm going to put you in a live firing scenario where we're not firing anything. Meaning there's gunfire going all around me. In different bays, people are shooting. A lot of people are jumpy in the beginning. You know, what I've seen and what I've experienced is people, they get jittery in the front, in the front of the class, in the beginning of the class, but over time, while they're in that class, while they're in that gun range with me for an hour and a half, 2 hours, they kind of forget about the other popping that's going around them because they've been, in that environment, right? That's kind of a natural progression. Now, I say that to say this: before I'll take literally 40, 45 minutes walking through step by step, from teaching them the anatomy of the pistol to literally how to pick it up properly, how to do a safety check on it, how to load it, how to unload it, how to get a grip, get a stance, understanding your front and rear sights, how to use them, and then understanding where you place your finger on the trigger, right? And we go through those things in the progression. That usually takes anywhere between 45 minutes, sometimes even a whole hour. From there, it's when we start doing the live fire. And I give them the first 5 rounds, and I want to see where they are based off of what I told them, and I'll stand by and let them fire the gun. I tell them where I want them to hit. And according to, what I see there, lets me know what all they took in while we were firing. But by the time we're starting to fire, they already know how to grab the pistol. They already know how to get in a stance. They understand to control themselves with their breathing. They'll get all nervous and everything. They understand how to see their target, press out. They understand these things, of course. So I try to walk them into a comfort zone, and I'm pretty sure we don't train the same, but I'm pretty sure we're all somewhat similar in making sure our students are comfortable, because again, they got to know what they don't know, and it's our job to make them comfortable with it. So, in my opinion, rubber gun versus an actual gun, I love the trainer, but I use my live weapon first, but it's never live. It's always empty for that purpose. I use my live gun as I guess, in the form of a rubber gun, because they get those reps constant before we move to the next step. So I guess it's all about preference as it, for an instructor. They prefer a trainer. I got about 7, 8 rubber guns, but I really don't use them. It's kind of like DVD versus, the new age streaming nowadays. It's a progressive type of thing.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so real quick, I know Rose asked Brother Armand if you still are offering virtual gun training and also women's self-defense classes.
Absolutely. Anybody that needs it, I mean, I have no problem doing classes via Zoom. I've done several. I do it with my gun club. We're across 7 states, so I have to do Zoom calls. So not a problem at all.
Cool. James, your wife, does she do classes if they want to come in, hands in? I know you're in the Boynton Beach area, which is
Yeah.
pretty much West Palm. Does she do classes up there, or she's virtual as well?
Yeah, she does. She does a lot of instructing, primarily in what do you call it? Pumping over on the Atlantic range. From there, Delray Shooting Center, and also Gator Guns, where she'll take a class of women and teach them. She not only teaches with the lethal weapon, she started out with the non-lethal options. With the batons, the little 7-inch sharp batons, coup batons, maces, things of that nature. She's more on the non-lethal side, but she's also good with it also with the firearms. So,
Okay.
but she tried to teach be a little bit more practical. Most people think gun safety, gun safety, gun safety, but there are also non-lethal options that she would have been great for, but she's like really not feeling good right now. She's
Yeah.
actually over there snoring, so I apologize for
No,
her
that's
absence,
fine.
but I can definitely answer, from her perspective of what she really, get into.
True. And plus, she has her, like I said, anybody that wants to go and ask questions, she's on Instagram and Facebook as She's Loaded. And you could inbox her and she'll get back to you as soon as she can. Right now, she's under the weather. Um, it's a little unfortunate, but we still have her information. So even when you watching it now or playback or whenever you get time, you can inbox her and ask the questions if you need from a lady to lady. And also, Amon has his Annabis Gun Club. You guys can go and contact him, go into his social medias and ask him when he's doing his classes and everything like that as well. I know he's in Texas, so all the people that are in Texas that want to get hands-on, you can inbox him and see if he has hands-on classes as well if you're in the Texas area. So it's great to know this information, so that way you have the option whether you want to do a virtual or in person. We also have our brother Charles, who has his, Champion Custom Firearms as well. He's in the Miami area. So you have Texas, Boynton Beach, Fort Lauderdale, which is West Palm. And then you have our brother right here, who's also in the Fort Lauderdale area, but also based out of Miami as well. So you have three different guys that's in different areas. Just get the questions in, inbox them, go on their social media, and figure out who you want to deal with based on who you feel with, or even with location. Maybe whatever's convenient for you. It's all about getting the information. It's not about here trying to pit you to anybody particular. It's whoever you feel comfortable with, whoever you feel the knowledge with, or who just basically is the best situation for you, whether it's location wise. All right. So that's why I'm glad that it's three different areas so that people have options just in case and say, hey, they're in my area, and they can go to them and get their information and get the training that they desire and truly need. So I appreciate that. I did want to show you guys a video real quick that was very controversial, right? So we're talking about proper training, and I remember Amon and Charles, you guys both signed off on the fact that a lot of people are doing things that aren't really getting bad habits, right? So I want to show you this video because I thought, and I'm not an instructor, but Bobby Drake ripped me across the head because of I said that I liked the video because what I felt like the parents were doing was giving their children basic instructions. He said there were some errors, and I want to show you guys the video and you guys tell me what you think. All right. All right, here's the video. Oh, hold on. All right, here's the video. All right, so that's the video. I thought it was just a basic release, reload release video. Drake ripped me for it, and he said, "Yeah, it looks good, but there's a lot of issues I have with it." So
Yeah.
I wanted you guys to go ahead and let me know what you felt.
From a safety perspective, I don't know why he would have one in front of the other. To me, that's the first thing that stood out as soon as you turned the video on. There's no real technique in drawing and presenting. You can hurt yourself if you draw them properly. You can either get tangled up with pulling your pistol out the way she's like swinging it out to the side to bring it forward. There's a lot wrong with that. I commend the person for working with his kids. I'll never take that away. But to put someone in front, that's an automatic no-no. Even when we train, listen, even if the weapon is empty, it is still loaded. That's the way you're supposed to think. That's the mindset. It is always loaded. It is always loaded, and no one, is supposed to be in front of a loaded gun. Period. I'll let the other brothers chime in.
Okay. Go. You guys, anyone? Charles, Amon?
Well, yeah, just like James said, that was the first thing that jumped out at me. They were staggered, one right in front of the other. I applaud the parents for, doing it. Clearly, the young ladies aren't afraid; they're comfortable. But there are a lot of bad habits that are developed. Like the stances weren't that great. And like James said, on the presentation, they basically were fishing. We're either going over, we're coming under. It wasn't right, but I won't necessarily drag them because they started someplace. They started, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And usually it's the complete opposite, especially with our people. It's like, oh no, guns are bad. We're not doing that. Oh, no, I don't want the kids touching them. So for them to be where they are, I mean, I've seen adults not as good as them, sadly. So I commend, but yeah, there are a lot of things can be worked on in that scenario with those girls.
Oh, okay. Cool. Amon?
I absolutely agree with every brother that has spoken right now. Us being instructors, I'm pretty sure they had the same expression I had. We freak out immediately, like stop, no. Like the gentleman said, them shooting in front of each other, them dry firing in front of each other, absolute no. And I asked myself, why did they spaced apart at least 3 feet apart, 4 feet, and two, the mechanics, like like the gentleman said, in regards to your draw, instead of coming out at maybe a 90 and bring your body out to a 90, they're doing some 360 stuff that I don't know where they got that from, but no. The mag change. I look at I teach my team and I teach the people I train their workstations. Everything's in the flick of the wrist. Everything. So if I would show you right now, I have my pistol right here. It's unloaded. Please, everybody, verify. Weapons to the rear. Chambers to the rear. Okay, so if first of all, the way you hold your pistol, and I'm not gonna point this at you because again, when we point, that's flagging. That's a no-no. So I'll hold everything at 6 and 12. Okay, when I'm dry firing. Okay, so as I have my pistol, if I punch out, which I'm at a wall right now, nobody's in front, but if I punch out, my hands are a certain way. If you look at my hand positioning, again, I'm not pointing at anybody. So it's a whole lot of mechanical errors there. Good on the man for showing everybody the importance of teaching your children firearms, but don't be an instructor if you're not an instructor. That I tell everybody that. Just because you have a weapon, and a lot of our fathers, a lot of our brothers, kudos to you for trying to take over. But I'm also a contractor. You know what I say when people try to fix stuff? If you've never done it before, just hire somebody to do it. Okay? Because you're gonna teach the wrong mechanics, and these children, as they grow older, they never get this training because daddy taught me, my daddy taught me, my daddy taught me. Then all of a sudden, you don't teach them stuff like the importance of having a proper holster. You don't teach them the kind of holsters to have. They don't know the difference between a level 1 or level 2 holster or level 3 holster. They don't know that. They don't know the importance of it, and those are very important. So if they go to draw and they do this big circle thing, first of all, you're taking reaction time away. You've given your target an enemy to make the opportunity to make you their target faster. Okay, so it's a whole lot of mechanical errors. It's just we got a lot of learning to do across the board, and part of that to me was kind of like, is he doing this for show? Because if he's doing this for show, you basically taught everybody that it's okay to teach your children how to be reckless with a pistol.
Okay.
So that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, I appreciate the feedback. My apologies, Bobby Drake. I understood what he was saying.
You gotta chill, bro. You gotta chill.
What you mean?
Nah, I wasn't jumping on your back though. I would just say pretty much what the brothers said, is the same type of wave that I was on with it. Just really quick, because I believe in letting the experts do their thing. I do my thing, but I'm by no means an instructor, so my voice in this regard will never be of more importance than those who are actually out there doing the work. But I'll just simply say, in general, we tend to, as a culture, if we're being honest, we like to try and skimp and shortchange on things. You know what I'm saying? We like to try and do things the discount way. If we can not spend money to do whatever, well, when my granddaddy shot, my daddy shot, I don't need to go and get no instructor, whatever. That's extra money. I got ammunition. I can do all this. And that's good for some things. I mean, you can do that if you learn to paint. You don't got to go to an art school or to sit with a Dutch master or something and learn how to go ahead and paint, elite level stick figures. That's all. You can just do what you want to do with that. But when we're talking about things that are literally a matter of life and death, don't F around with those things. Don't fuck around with that. That's very serious. Leave that to the professionals. Go ahead and, like they're talking about, there's certain key things. Like, even if you're learning how to punch out, you're learning to load and reload, those are great things. But there's other things that are just as important, if not more so, that's going to make the difference. How to properly draw your weapons so you're not eating up reaction time and giving the ops chance to go ahead and put you down. Not firing behind somebody. I mean, if you're going to even think about doing that, and I'm sure you brothers know, there's all kinds of advanced level tactical classes that teach you how to do that. And it's a lot simpler than just sitting behind somebody. There's all kind of ways of thinking and moving, whatever. That's advanced level stuff. So these are things that you're not going to get if, more than likely, if it's just grandpa and Uncle so-and-so shooting with you. So go ahead, invest that money, whether it's Charles, James, Amon, or somebody else. Look up a decent instructor and get gamed up properly, because, again, this is matters of life and death. You the same way how you wouldn't go and try and do open heart surgery on yourself because you can't afford the bill. You just want to, take your chances. Don't play with this. This is no less lethal. Make sure you're getting the best education, the best information, so you can actually be an asset to yourself and your loved ones and not a liability.
Well said. Yeah, I know. I know you didn't. I was being facetious when I said that you were ripping me across. But what I did want to acknowledge is that the fact that I looked at it in one perspective of where I said that I felt like it was great that they were showing their children how to empty the clip, reload, and disarm. Right. I fell in love with the fact, because a lot of times when we don't see a lot of what we're seeing or exposed to that, and we finally get a glimpse of it, we grasp to it so much that we forget the hindsight of it, where it's there's also a down factor or a bad habit behind it. So because, like we were saying earlier, that all these children out here have access to guns, whether you are teaching your child or not, the fact that you have a parent that's showing their children how to, basically load the gun and reload and stuff like that. And I got sucked into that and not realize the fact, the dangers behind it, like all the instructors said, and you were telling me initially, Bobby. So now that I get all that information, now I see that it becomes more of a problem than just the fact of it being looked at as being so gracious. So that's why I wanted to bring the fact that we had that discussion up, to show that, hey, even your friend can say to you and point out to you, like, hey, there's an issue with this. And seeing it from that angle made me realize, okay, dang, okay, I didn't even know I was sitting here promoting something that can end up backfiring and harming a lot of children in the process. So I just want to thank you, fellas, for that. And this is why we wanted to bring this conversation to a lot of people, because what looks like something that is so harmless and is joyful to us can also be an Achilles heel and cause major damage and safety issues for the same people that we're trying to protect and love. I have a couple of questions for you, but I wanted to see what was your thoughts on this. Somebody had gave me a couple of questions to ask you guys. So they wanted to know, as a first-time gun owner, where do you start? Can you give some beginners pointers and suggestions? And this is from a woman.
So far as a firearm, everybody for some reason, this is just my opinion, y'all.
Mhm.
They automatically run to the smallest gun they can find. You have to realize this is your home defense weapon. Okay, so some people will say, "Well, can I get a 22?" You can. I mean, it's better to have something than nothing. But if we're just going to be real with it, I have big hands, so I'm going to have a full size pistol. I'm not going to get anything small. All right. Number two, it coincides with the gun laws also. Like if I have a holster, I can have a concealment holster. I have an appendix holster. I also have something for open carry, which is also a holster, right? So it fits my hand. The first thing you want to do is check for feel. Okay. You put your weapon in your hand. You put the weapon in your hand. Don't put your finger in the trigger ever. Put it around the hand guard, right up under the beaver tail. Get a firm grip, and if it feels right for you, that's the weapon that you want to work with. There's nothing wrong, sisters, with having a full size pistol. The difference between a compact pistol and a full size, brothers, please correct me if I'm wrong, is recoil. It's recoil management. This is what you're going to experience a lot with a compact pistol. Unless you have a top of the line, they make pretty good products like SIG. SIG has a great recoil pattern, even on a compact. But if you're going regular pistols, please get a full size because you go from this to this because of the weight of the pistol itself. Okay? Don't be afraid to get a 9 millimeter because most threats have 9 millimeters or 40s. And you shooting back at them with a 380, that's great. A pistol's a pistol. However, your standard engagement is going to be against a 9 millimeter. Meet force with force. Now, I will tell you this about a 22 caliber round. That is a nasty round. And the reason why it's nasty is because of the size of that round, which is about this big, which doesn't seem to have much impact. The problem is it enters your skin, enters your body, and it can ricochet off of a bone and go somewhere else. So you hit somebody in the chest and it comes out your foot. Okay, so that's a round ricochet. It's a real nasty round. But I always recommend go with a 9 millimeter to start. If you want to go 40 later because you manage the recoil, great. But start at a 9 millimeter. 380s are fine, but even in ammo sake, if you go ammo shopping, I realize you don't see that many 380 rounds, right? Please correct me if I'm wrong. So if the standard amount of ammo that you see is that 115 grain 9 millimeter, go with a 9 millimeter because you want to get the weapon that you can replenish ammunition with. You want plenty of rooms to get ammo. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I have the
100.
brother started speaking on what's in your hand. I kind of have a checkoff list. I never recommend or tell anybody what they need. For a person. I have a lot of women that say, "What's a good girl gun?" Right. That's a very popular question to especially a male instructor. Well, for me, I gotta say that. And there's no such thing as a good girl gun. Everything starts with how it feel in my hand, right? How does it feel in my hand? If it feels good, it's kind of like what is that? The Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You sit at one porridge and this is too hot, this is too cold, this is just right. That's what you want. You want that hand feeling. See how it feels in your hand because what fits good in my hand may not fit good in your hand.
Right.
So that's the whole concept. You have to get what's comfortable for you, and not what's not. Somebody can suggest, "Hey, go look at this particular gun." But if it might be a very, very good gun, but it might not be a good gun for you. Start out with how it feels, right? Start out um, with round capacity. You got to know how many rounds you want. There are some 9 millimeters that can only hold 7 in one. And then there's other 9mm that can hold 12 in one, some 17 in one. So you got to know what capacity you want, right? Not that I want, but what capacity you want. You got to know the knockdown power, the caliber. The brother said 9mm. I'm a big fan of 9mm because you're not going to run out of that ammo except, the apocalypse happened or another pandemic. Start loading up. Stop.
Right.
Keep yourself loaded up, You also have to know, I mean, there's a couple different elements about purchasing a weapon that you should know before you purchase a weapon, right? Prime example, if you go to a gun dealer, I don't care where you go, if a gun dealer has a gun that's on his shelf that he hasn't sold in 4 months, but he has 2 or 3 models that keeps flying off the shelf, if he can catch on that you're a newbie, he's gonna try. If he's smart, he's gonna try and get that one out of the shop that he hasn't sold in 4 months. Why? Because he's in the business of money. This is the reason why you have to know how to shop for a weapon for yourself. Don't buy anything, right? You have to know, if you want a passive safety or an active safety. Most people don't know the difference between what's that? What's the safety? They just figure just the up and down is the only safety zone. You got passive safeties. Glocks have them, SIGs have them, even in the trigger mechanism. So you have to know the different things about purchasing a weapon before you make that final purchase. You got to know the gun you want, period.
I have a question, man. Just before the other brother jumps in, I'm getting a question in one of my inboxes from one of the ladies. She's saying that her the pushback that she gets or the pushback that she's giving is you're saying, how it feels in your hand. But what she's saying is the weight of the gun itself feels intimidating in her hand. So that's why she's comfortable with the 22, the 380, what have you. So basically, how does she get past that? You know what I mean? Because she's acknowledging that it's a fear.
Right.
But she doesn't know what the right gun would be or how to determine the weight, feeling comfortable in her hand, being that the weight is the problem. If that makes sense.
So it does.
It does.
And one of the things that I would say, Major, can you mute? Major, can you get feedback? Yeah. Can you hear me, sir?
You're good now.
Okay. So one of the things that I would suggest is maybe something with a smaller round count, and then that might reduce some of the weight. I still wouldn't necessarily suggest going the 22 route. And I know when I'm working with people and they're trying to decide what gun they want to purchase, one of the things, we go to the range and we try different ones at the range. At least 4 of them, sometimes 5. And they're usually similar in size, because one of the first things I want to find out is what's the intended purpose of you having it. Is it to carry with you? Is it to stay at home? What's your intended purpose for this particular firearm? Is it just for home defense? You want to have it with you? And then that kind of determines size as well. Because if it's a gun that's for home protection, you don't have to worry about concealment, especially as a young lady. It's hard for them. They have to dress around their gun. For the most part with us, our shirt's always outside. We're in the waist with our guns. For women, it's a little different where they might carry. And then that would also determine size of the gun. But I would say get something large enough for you to handle, but small enough to be comfortable, if that makes sense. So if it's a petite young lady and her hands are small, I wouldn't try to give her a Glock 17 because she's going to have a hard time with it. Mm-hmm. Size, weight, the advantage or disadvantage, I should say, to the smaller weapons that they normally try to push onto women, hey, this is a girl gun. Usually the smaller it is, the more recoil it has.
Screaming.
So then you're going to buy this gun that's small and cute and it has a pink handle that you like. And the first time you shoot it, the recoil or the kick is going to be ridiculous and you're not going to like shooting that gun. So what happens when they don't like shooting it? They're not going to carry it. They're not going to train with it. You know what I mean? So that's actually going against the intended purpose. So we want you to get comfortable with something. So for me, when I have people searching for guns, I'm like, let's go to the range and let's try a few. You know, so it'll start with, oh, this one looks nice. Oh, I like that one. Oh, somebody told me about that one. And then when you shoot it, like, I don't really like that one. And that's kind of how you figure it out. So definitely try first before actually buying.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people, buy once, cry once. So don't go, you know, get one of the budget guns that they try to push off on you at the range, and then you get it, don't like it, end up having to buy something else later on because now you bought two.
So that answered the question. That's the question you had, Major. You good with that? Did they have any other question?
I had one other one.
Go
ahead, Bob.
Real quick before you transition, I just want to give a civilian perspective. I don't know if it helps, because obviously it's a woman versus a guy. But when I first got my firearm, and I didn't know anything about it, the only experience I had with firearms previously was I was doing armed security for a little bit, and I literally went to the range to qualify with the one I had, and that was it. So when I actually got into getting my own firearm, I didn't know much. So just like the recommendations, I got hooked up with local gun club, shout out Black Arms. And, you know, I was on the range for a number of weeks. I mean, I was like getting hounded, you know, when you're going to get your own firearm, when you're going to get your own firearm. Like, well, I don't know what I want just yet. I had a chance to fire a number of different people's firearms. I must have shot like about 7 to 8, possibly 9 different ones. And it just so happened that the first one I ended up firing was the one I ended up getting for my own later on. But I went through the process. I was firing different ones. But as I was trying different ones, different brands, different models, nothing felt as good to me as the first one that I shot. And I found myself, without even realizing it, I was subconsciously measuring all the other ones up to the way I felt with the first one. And I never quite got the same response. I never got the same results that I did with that first one. And that ended up being the model I went with. Now, that gun, that was a CZ75B. The full size ones. Now that's one of the larger type of handguns in terms of weight. It's a full size, damn near about 5 inches, like 4 inches and some change from tip to end. And it's also one of the heavier handguns out there because it's all steel. It's not one of those polymer type ones. It's not a semi. That's all steel. So it's a heavy one too. I'm a bigger guy, so I kind of have that advantage. And then I realized one of the things that I liked about it being heavy, because I'm thinking, well, this is kind of big. Maybe this isn't practical. But one of the things that helped was with that extra weight, every time I'm squeezing the trigger and the recoil it goes up, because it's so heavy, I didn't have to do a whole lot of work controlling it. Once I kind of got over the initial resistance, that thing's all steel. I didn't have to do anything. Squeeze the trigger, thing falls right back into place. Boom. So instead of having to fire and try, kind of aim, I'm just boom. It literally drops right back in front of me. So that ended up being the one I was most comfortable with. And because I do have some additional size, man, I'm like, you know what? I was looking for the longest to say, well, maybe I need to get a compact or like something between a compact and a full size. I'm like, you know what? I like this so much and I feel so comfortable. I don't know if I would trust anything else for my EDC. And so that's the one that I use for my primary carry. And I just, able to make up the difference when I carry it. So just because it feels heavier, don't let that be intimidating. That extra weight might actually be a benefit to you as long as you're able to control it. So I would say maybe if it's a firearm that you feel comfortable with sucking through about 2 to 3 magazines with, and your hands not getting fatigued and tired, I'd say stick with that. Because if that extra weight will help you control it better, it also kind of give you a more confident feel. I think it's more about rewiring how you see it. So in your mind, you're seeing a heavier firearm as dangerous, intimidating. I would say if you have one that is solid, take some time breaking it in. Put maybe, if you can, put about 100 rounds through it, kind of build that familiarity with it, and see if you can overcome that. But if not, get something a little bit smaller, because ultimately it's not just about how it fires, how it rides, recoils, but mentally you have to be in sync with that firearm too. So If you still have that monkey on your back that's saying this doesn't feel right, this feels off, then you're better off just learning how to manage a snappier firearm if you're comfortable with it than having this kind of, intimidation on your back with a heavier one.
Well said. Very well said. I've experienced the same thing. Whereas firearms that are heavier are more steady. Very well said. I had another question. This one is about storage. Being that I'm a newlywed, married not too long ago. I have my gun and I have it up, and it's just me and my wife here right now. You know what I mean? So it's really not much of a concern unless we have guests over and we just, lock the room or whatever the case may be. We're not really too worried about anybody getting to it. Her concern and my mom's concern, everybody else's concern. Oh God, when you have a baby, you got the firearm over there. You know what I mean? And most people, their concern is, you hear about these stories on the news every other week. Somebody gets hold of the firearm. Some kid is over after school, hanging out, and they go and they get the firearm and shoot, or somebody shoots their brother or sister. So my question is, with regards to storage, I think that's a very big topic when you start talking about firearms that not enough people talk about. What are your best practices when it comes to storing guns, storing ammo, so forth and so on? Is it as simple as keeping the gun here, keeping the clip somewhere else, keeping the ammo somewhere else, not keeping it loaded? Of course, not keeping it loaded, but I mean, like, what are your do's and don'ts with regards to that? Because I think a lot of people get in trouble or fear getting in trouble. A lot of the fear comes from not understanding the proper way to store and keep these things away from, children and other people that you don't want to have access to.
I'll start out. I'm big on teaching people you always need to know the condition of your weapon at all times, right? So when you start developing bad habits of taking the magazine out, leaving it over there, storing it over there while the gun is over here, most people don't realize that by taking that magazine out the gun, and if there's still one inside the chamber, depending on the manufacturer, that gun will still fire, right? Some don't know that. Some guns won't fire and some guns will, right? So you have to know your gun, first of all. Secondly, I am big on gun storage because I don't care if it's just you and your mate that live in that one house. You have to start practicing good habits, right? So if you want to just throw it in the drawer, right? Give me a good scenario. If you just want to throw it in the drawer and you come home, put it in the drawer, your nightstand or whatever, you lay down and you go to sleep. On every practical morning you wake up, you slide your drawer open, you grab your gun, and you go on about your day. But things change in the heat of the moment, right? As easy as it was for you to grab your weapon every morning and walk out of the door, when something real serious happens, your mechanics will fail you. Your basic mechanics will fail you because you're heightened, your adrenaline, you're heightened at this point. So you'll find yourself fumbling with the drawer, trying to pull the drawer open because now you hear somebody in your house. You're not sure what's going on. It's dark. Now what you do normally every day don't necessarily run the same way because you're heightened. Everything is pushed up. And if you're one of those ones that keeps the magazine way over there, you could forget that the magazine's not even in a gun. You have to be comfortable knowing where your stuff is, but at the end of the day, you have to start developing good habits, keeping it the way you're comfortable keeping it, but keeping it the same way every single day, right? I'm big on gun storage. Get you a speed vault where you either use key depressant or biometrics, which is fingerprint technology, and 1, 2, pop, that door pops open for you. That's better than putting it in a drawer because you're securing it from all unauthorized users, right? At any given point. And it only opens up when you put that code on it. Be consistent, know your weapon, where it is, and what condition it's in at all times. That's me.
I myself personally, whenever I travel, I have this with me. That's my case. Okay, I don't leave my gun usually laid out all over the place because my weapon is in my case, even by my bed. All I gotta do is flip it open. Yes, I'll say get gun safes and things like that. Like the brother said, get a bump safe, biometric. But if you're traveling, you go into your car, there's nothing wrong with putting your weapon in the case. That's what they make them for. Your mags are right there. All right. Now, when I'm going to the range or something to that effect, I have my holster on me. Some people say you could put a magnetic holster in your truck, and actually, one of my vehicles, actually did have a magnet holster. Problem with that is, you're driving, you could probably kick it by accident, something like that. It comes off when pressing the brake or mashing the gas, right? So I just make a good practice to keep my weapon in the case. All right. Now, when I'm out, my weapon's in my holster. Okay, so if anybody were to come in my house at night, well, my weapon's right there. It's in the case, but it's usually unlocked if I'm by it. But if I'm not by it, my case is locked. Which I don't know why I'd ever be away from my weapon, but I'm just saying, if I'm away from it, my case is locked. I don't want anybody messing with it. You need to treat your weapon like it's I don't have a lot of jewelry, but let's say that nice diamond watch you have, you don't want anybody to touch it unless you're wearing it. Does that make sense? You treat your weapon the same way. All right. If you take it off, do what? You put your watch in the case, right? So when I'm not using my weapon's in the case. It's secure. It's locked. It's by me. All right. And there's other little precautions I use in the house for, self defense mechanisms. Like one, I lock doors. I do that. I check every door in the house before I go to bed. If anybody pulls on that bedroom door, pulls on that front door too hard, I already know they're not supposed to be there, and I know how to act accordingly.
So for me, with safes are always a good way to go. Like Mr. Holiday said, the one with the biometrics, pretty good, because anything you have to key in a number in a high stressful situation, you're gonna jack that up. If your combination isn't 1, 2, 3, 4, you're gonna jack it up. You're gonna put it in wrong, it won't open, and then you're gonna panic even more. So something with biometric definitely is a good go. If you're a person that has multiple, this is kind of where it can get dicey, because the one you carry most times, or your everyday, that's going to be accessible to you, and you're going to have it, just like everybody said, somewhere near them. For me, it's on me until I get ready to go to bed. In the event, hey, things happen. Somebody can come in while I'm in the house chilling. Anything can happen. I live in Miami, so I'm always prepared in that sense. So everything else, especially like long guns, rifles, you want them locked away. In the event somebody gets into your space when you're not there, they're not leaving with all of your valuables. Your guns are still there. You can still protect yourself if need be. So it really just depends. Let's say, for instance, you're a new gun owner and you just bought the gun and all you have is the hard case that it comes with. And you have the barrel lock. Use the barrel lock. Have it unloaded. Use the barrel lock. Especially if it's not a gun that you're going to carry with you. When you're away and it's at home, use the barrel lock. And then when you get home, unlock it, and you can go from there. So there are many different ways your gun can be stored safely without putting other people in jeopardy if someone else comes across that firearm.
Can I just add at the end of his what he says, if you're gonna bring a brand new gun home, you got that gun from a dealer, pawn shop, gun shop, whatever. Get a storage with it. Take a storage with you from wherever you got it from. And if you haven't gotten one, you should have one coming in from Amazon or somewhere. But they go hand in hand. You just don't buy a gun without buying storage. Period. Right? So you talk about being consistent. You got to have a storage. Your life could depend on it.
Definitely. I wanted this to Yeah, I think it's very important because I'm not sure if you guys saw the situation where a little kid got bullied at football practice, and his mom went to pick him up, and he ran to his mother's car, and he knew where his mother's gun was, and it was under the seat of the driver side. I mean, no, no, not the driver, the passenger side. He pulled out the gun and he shot the kid in the back twice. He could have killed the kid. They said the reports was that he was being bullied by the other two football players, but I think that the mother is now under investigation and might be in some serious trouble because of the access that he had to the gun
Hmm.
in order to harm the other child. And something just that so quick, it happened so quick that she didn't even get a chance to react. And by the time it happened, uh, the kid is damn near almost going in the ambulance trying to be rushed to save his life. So um, I think that was a prime example of what you guys said with storage because um, your children even having access to it can put you in a bad situation, which I know a lot of parents have been put in bad situations because their child ran and got
Mm-mm,
access to their gun and did something real bad with it.
mm-mm. The child never put the adult in a bad situation. The adult put themselves in a bad situation by leaving access to that firearm, right? The brother from Texas, he put up his travel case. I got one. I'm sure Charles got two or three of them, right? You ride around and you can have those cable corded to your anchored to your seat. There's no way that should have been open like that for that young man to get access to it, which goes back to the original, focus of, well, I ain't gonna say the focus, but one of the things I talked about earlier is you need to know what you don't know. In Florida right now, people are walking around that don't have to take a class with a firearm that's not getting the knowledge of how to carry in the vehicle. When they once would have to sit in the classroom and some of the instructors would talk a little bit about gun law with the disclaimer, obviously, that we're not attorneys. But at the end of the day, that basic gun law, you need to know how you can carry. Had she known that she needed to have that gun box locked up under that seat, that young man would have never been in that situation, at least with, shooting that young guy. So I would never say a kid put a parent in jeopardy. That parent put himself in jeopardy. It's negligent.
It's negligent.
Agreed.
Correct.
Agreed. Real
Correct.
quick, we got some questions in the chat. I just want to hit on real quick. Someone's asking, can we talk about gun prices, please? And another sister, I believe, said, can we have some more knowledge of for the youth specifically and gun safety?
Gun prices are gun
Gun
prices.
prices are gun prices.
You can get a
You can
really.
get
I mean,
really. I
we
mean,
as
I think
I got feedback. Gun
maybe they mean
prices.
affordability.
gun prices.
I'm sorry, for the what?
I think maybe they're getting at affordability.
So here's where they go. Here's where they can go wrong.
James,
Buying
real
a
quick,
gun because okay, go ahead.
let me just tweak the. I think I get what she's trying to get. Let me see if I can tweak it so she's going to be able to better get the information she wants. What would be the decent starting price point for a quality firearm? Not the top of the line Rolls Royce, Bugatti Veyron of firearms with the lasers and everything, but what's the lowest price that you can expect to get a decent, dependable, reliable firearm at? That's not going to self-destruct in your hand if you miss and rack the slide wrong or something.
I can give you a price on a gun. Doesn't mean it's going to be the right gun for them, right? So I would say if I told you 425 for a Smith and Wesson EZ, right? I think they're around 425, 450
A little
right
less.
now. More or less, right, Charles?
Yeah, yeah.
I can give you 425, right? Um, when the SIG 365 came out, when I bought it, it was 375. Both of those guns are quality, affordable guns. It just depends on what gun is the right gun for the person. They can't go. You never buy a gun based on price. You got to buy it based on what you're comfortable with. And if it just so happened the one you're comfortable with, I don't care if it's that car, whatever it is, I wouldn't recommend. No, scratch that. Scratch that, because I'm not a fan of it. I'm not saying it's a bad gun. I'm not a fan of it. Let me say that. But you have to buy a gun not based on price. You already know you're going to spend anywhere from $350 to $700, depending on the gun you want. Go there knowing that, but go there knowing that this is a one-time thing you want to do. So get the right one, because you can double spend, like y'all said earlier. You can get something that, yeah, I got this gun. It was only $350, but it don't shoot right. It's screaming in my hand. It's too wild. Now you got to go spend another $450. Now you've invested total $775, whatever the case may be, in something that you probably could have just spent the $450 in it, the first time around. Don't buy a gun based on price. Don't get comfortable with that notion. I don't know if the other brothers would agree with me, but that's my take on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Life
And I
work.
just want. Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
No, I just want. No, yeah, I got a Canik, right? I went and got my Canik. Amon got a Canik too. We was in a chat together talking about their Canik. The reason why I wanted to show you the Canik, because like you guys were saying with the storage, how it comes with the brush cleaning, and that's one of the questions that Queen Renee was asking about. How important it is to clean your gun, which I'll let you guys explain how important it is to clean your gun. But I got the whole shebang right here when it comes to the Canik. Why I'm showing you the Canik. Canik is one of the best guns that I've actually fired as far as accuracy and everything like that for the price point. Now, you have some guns out there that are pretty dope, but you're going to pay a pretty hefty penny for them. Like some of you, I know Queen Renee says she has a SIG. SIGs to me are pretty pricey, and they can go up there. So it all depends. Like I say, just go to the range. Like I went to the range. I tell people all the time, don't ask questions about what gun is good for you. Just go to the range, and they basically allow you to rent out guns and find a gun and rent it out and see how it feels. And a lot of times I've had to put back guns because the trigger was too hard for me. So I like my trigger to be a little more softer. So, you might be the same way too. Just go and feel it out for yourself. And because it's just like a car, right? There's some cars out there that look real good from the outside. And the minute they give you the keys and say, hey, test drive it around the block. And you're like, God, Lee, this steering wheel is stiff as hell, or the seats is just so harsh and conformed. And you're like, nah, it looked good, but I don't want it. Imagine if you had paid for it. Somebody said, yeah, go ahead and buy it. And you would have paid for that car, and then you would have got the car, signed off on all of that, and then been stuck with the car because of what somebody else said. So go out there, test drive your firearm. That's my suggestion, and I'll land my plane on that.
They also asked about youth and firearm safety. Again, youth is, we need to start opening up the the flyers, the everything to the youth for firearms training and firearms safety. And as the brother said earlier, we come from a culture where we kind of want to skimp on pricing. But if you were to invest, I mean, what is your child's freedom and or life worth when it comes down to investing in firearm safety and firearms training? Let's keep it real, because I'm going to train you like I would train any adult, obviously on an intermediate level. But at the end of the day, you're going to get ultimately the same form or the same type of training, just at a level you can work at. And most people that I've come across aren't willing to pay a price for it. They think because it's like getting a haircut, right? When we were coming up, the kids' haircut was $7 and the men's haircut was $10. But we all think a head is a head, no matter how big the head is, right? So because as a child, they don't want to pay anything, but if I'm an adult, I can pay something. You got to realize, listen, this information is it's life changing. This is a lifestyle. This is not, this is not nothing that you can pick up and put down. And shooting a weapon, learning how to shoot it, and being accurate, that's a perishable skill, right? If you don't use it, you will lose it. You will lose the consistency of it. So there are a lot of instructors, including myself, and I'm sure including these brothers that offer youth firearm training. But when we start introducing it and bringing it to the public's eye, it's crickets, because nobody wants to place their children in front of a gun, or at least they don't want to pay for it. They'll pay for themselves here and there, but most of the time, once they get 1 or 2 classes in, they're pretty much done with it. They don't see the value, the overall value, and that's what they got to see.
Correct.
That's true, James, because I offer a youth class, and I've seen the participation in that youth class dwindle. And for the most part, at the end, we shoot a 22, but for me, with the youth, it's all about safety. Mm-hmm. So we go over different scenarios. Like some of you mentioned earlier, what happens if you go to a friend's house and they have a gun? What happens if your friend has a gun in school? So on. So we go over stuff like that, how to handle it. Don't ever let somebody take it out. Here, you want to see it? No, I don't want to see it. So we cover what could be real life scenarios in the youth class. And for the most part, our youth class, I only teach it maybe 3 times a year, where I have enough people who signed up to put those kids in that class. Which, if you're a parent and you have a firearm, your child should have some familiarity, because one of the things that happens, let's say you go out, you buy a gun, and you take it in, you sneak around with it, you sticking it here, you hiding it there. Children, they're curious. So that's when they're going to want to go and explore. Ooh, let me see this gun. If you introduce them to it and it's not, they know the level of seriousness that exists with it, that it's not a toy, and they get some training, they're not going to be as excited about it or curious, because you've removed that curiosity by them being exposed to it in the beginning. If that makes sense to you guys.
I absolutely agree with my brother. Oh.
Yeah, so that's how I handle, the youth with that one.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with my brothers, Mr. Charles and Mr. James. Very good points. I always tell people, first of all, when it comes to pricing, I ask them, how much is your life worth? Because this is not, you're not, and I said, look, you're not going to buy a pyrotechnic. This isn't a firecracker. This isn't like a crayon. It's not a pair of shoes. It's not a pass. This is something that's one day is going to be dependent on saving your life. I had a person come up to me one time and say, man, guns are high, but I need one. I said, okay, yeah, I understand. We'll save for them, brother. I mean, you just went to a concert, right? Yeah, well, that money could have went to your weapon. But instead, so the next weekend he shows up, and you got to kind of be a brand person when you choosing the firearm. You do. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why. It's mainly manufacturer, it's actual mechanics and build. So the guy came out, he's probably had his pistol. I said, oh, man, you got a pistol good for you. He takes it out the bag, and it's a Scott SCCY pistol. I stopped him immediately. He said, what do you think about this gun? I said, take this gun back. If you can't get your money back, get it back. If you can't get it back, throw it at somebody and forget about it. Another guy had a high point. I said, don't ever disrespect me again or bring a high point in my presence in life. All right. Well, so I mentioned these names, right? So we're going to talk about why I said that. The Sky Pistol, first of all, reviews are important, people. I hope y'all paying attention. Reviews are important. As many videos as we watch on YouTube, you need to be watching reviews on certain kind of pistols you want. So what's the problem with the Sky Pistol? If you want something blowing up in your hand, fine, go for it. Because those have a history of malfunctioning to the point of sending squib rounds you could blow up in your hand, you name it. Okay. High points have a bad problem. One, the weight, the design of it is so clumsy that when you draw it, it's heavy. And then on top of that, it has a high jam ratio. Again, you are thinking about saving your life. So if somebody kicks in my door, I have to look over to my nightstand, open my case to my sky pistol, and hope that when I have to return fire, it doesn't jam, blow up, or do anything like that. Whereas my Kanish, Kanish that I have is competition ready. I know this weapon will not malfunction. Or a Glock. I just personally don't like Glocks because I'm a competition shooter, but Glocks are good guns, all right. But Glock, good gun. Sig, you there. HK, great gun. You see what I'm saying? But if you're gonna pay this price to go to these high price restaurants, right? You're gonna pay the price to go to these fancy concerts you want to go to, right? Everybody loves Jordan. I don't, but okay. Everybody loves Jordans. You want to pay $300, $400 for a pair of shoes, knock yourself out. You mean to tell me you can't put $300 or $400 in investing into something that is going to make sure that you come home? And if you're making that decision, parents, children, as you teach them, are going to make that same decision. So he might come up one day, well, we shot high points my whole life. And I'll probably say something like, you probably didn't hit the target once your whole life. All right. Because of the weight. It's all about the namesakes of these guns like SIG. You say SIG, what do you say? Good gun. You say Taurus, you go, Smith & Wesson, it's okay. Ruger, it's okay for the price. Canik, nice competition pistol, and it's cost effective. Look at your reviews, people. You have to look at your reviews. When you're going to do anything else, the first thing you do, when you hire a contractor, you usually look at reviews, right? You look at products, you got to check out the functionality, the mechanics, the gears, and everything. How does this thing function in my hand? Now, to you, Anthony, I'll tell you this. One good thing about a pistol, when you buy it, if the trigger's too heavy, you can always modify a trigger and get it made or and get it redone. Mechanic, as a matter of fact, when I first bought it, it's a great on trigger pull. Problem is, it's a little too heavy for competition. So I went to Freedom Smith and I ordered a Fat Daddy 2, and now I have a 0.5 pound trigger pull. Okay, so that's things you could do, but it's instructors that can game you up on stuff like this. Also, when you're learning firearm safety, there's nothing wrong with getting into the competition realm. Why do I say that? It's not for you to go out and be the best. It's for you to learn how to shoot and move, shoot and move, shoot and move safely. Okay? Because we could teach you as much as we want to in an indoor range. Good. You know how to shoot at paper and you know how to shoot stationary. Good job. However, if a target is engaging you, can you move from point A to point B and engage the target quickly? Because again, if you're gonna get this gun, you know, have this weapon in your house, one thing you do need to do is need to take note of, is that your life depends on it. Your life depends on it. Now, as we talked, you asked a question about cleaning. How important it is? How important is it? Severely important. That's the difference between your gun firing and your gun jamming. That's the difference between you not having issues with your trigger. Okay? So that's it.
How real quick with the cleaning, how do you go about that? Because we have women that's watching. How do you go about finding out how to clean your gun correctly?
You can go to YouTube University, right?
Instructors. That you can do that. First of all, you have a weapon. Your instructor should be giving you all of that game right there. They should be telling you everything on how to shoot the weapon, as well as how to take your weapon apart properly and clean it and reassemble and function check. Okay, if they're not doing that, They're going to have to step their game up a little bit. Is it their responsibility overall? Our responsibility is to teach you how to shoot. But still, if you're going to have the weapon in your hand, I need to teach you how to fully operate that weapon. And part of operating it is cleaning it. That's your money maker on it. That's going to make sure your weapon works.
Now,
There
which
are a
goes
lot
back
of
to the
people
state of
who
Florida.
have
Oh, go ahead, Sean.
issues with cleaning.
Mm.
The assembly, the disassembly, especially. So at one time, I was doing that class monthly, and people are still intimidated by it. So I would say this: guns are like cars in a lot of sense. You have certain cars that use synthetic oil, and you can go longer without an oil change, and then you have some that use regular conventional oil, and you better change that oil every 3 months. So it's the same. There's some guns that are pretty sensitive and can't go that long without being cleaned. One of the things I've been doing recently is one of the Glocks that I use to teach my classes. I want to see how long I can go without actually cleaning it. And I'm at about year 2 right now, and that Glock hasn't been cleaned, and it functions. Now, one of the things I will do is lubricate it. And with Glock, because I can't do it with any of my SIGs, because I've tried and they respond differently. Glocks, if they're lubricated, you can go a long time without cleaning it. Now, should you? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And once you get at least, I would say, 100 rounds through it, it's time to clean it. It's time to clean it. Some people clean after every time they shoot it, but the average person isn't going to bother it like that. They might not even get through 100 rounds, because there are a lot of people who they go to the range, 20, 30 rounds. All right, I'm good. I'm out. And that only happens once every 2 to 3 months. So I would say your cleaning will go on the number of rounds you put through your firearm, but you have to clean it. You have to.
And going, just feeding off of what they both said, and again, constitutional carry states, Florida being the most recent one at it. You got to know what you don't know. He said if you got an instructor, he should be putting you up on game. They never went to a class. They just went to the gun store and bought a gun. By the way, more than likely, they probably didn't buy storage, right? And to add to it, now they don't know that they have to clean their gun, right? They don't know the importance of cleaning the gun. And I purposely don't clean my training pistols. I will lubricate them, but I don't clean them purposely because I want them to experience a fail, so I can teach my students how to clear them a real, double feed or misfire, or whatever the case may be. I want them to see what it feels like or what it looks like. To me, that's training. But at the end of the day, if you can't get it nowhere else, YouTube University. All you got to do is type in how to clean my gun. There's tons of videos out there. Some are extremely easy to follow, and some are, maybe a few more extra steps that some of us probably won't take. But at the end of the day, you'll get the gist of it.
Definitely.
Real
I
quick,
see. Yeah.
just to carry on to that, because I was kind of listening for something and I didn't hear it. So, in addition to cleaning and maintenance of the firearms, can you brothers also toss in a little bit of information on not just clearing for them, but how to care for your guns in different weather conditions? So, if you live in demonically hot ass Florida, or if you live in ice cold Idaho, is there different concerns that you have to keep in mind when it comes to storing your firearm, your ammunition, maintaining them? Is it one size fits all? Can you do the same thing up north that you do down south, or what other specifics are involved in that?
I would say keep your ammunition dry, and occasionally run a light coat of oil on the outer bands of your weapon to keep from rust and the inner lining. Other than that, if you just storing them, yeah, just keep a light, very very light coat of oil, maybe 1 or 2 drops on the material, and just wipe it down really good. That helps protect the coating from oil. I'm assuming from rust.
Agreed. Same.
By no means should you be oiling ammunition. You don't want any type of liquid
Yeah.
on your ammunition.
And you always want to use gun oil as well, because I
Mhm.
had a gun that I cleaned for somebody and they used oil that wasn't gun oil. Let's say that. So the gun
Yeah.
actually locked up.
So they
used
was
cooking-
using
cooking oil.
Crisco.
Yeah, they use cooking oil. Yeah, no, seriously. And the gun was locked up. Yeah.
Is that the same? Is that the same as pouring like sugar down the tank or mixing your gas with your oil?
Right.
Pretty much.
He was like, oil. I thought you could use any kind of oil. Are you serious? And I was like, no, you can't just use any kind of oil. So yeah, make sure you use gun oil. Some kits, when you buy your gun, they come with a little small thing of oil or lubricant, but get a gun cleaning kit. You know, if you have a gun, you should be able to maintain it to an extent. Get a gun cleaning kit. You know, at least some CLP, which is cleaner, lubricant, protectant. You know, that's kind of all in one shot, you know, gets everything. And just keep the gun lubricated. But at least that, you know, but have some form of being able to maintain your firearm. Because like everybody has said, your life can depend on it. So I want it in optimal condition. That way, if God forbid I'm in that event, I know my gun isn't going to fail me. You know, it's like getting in your car and you haven't done the brakes, and then you go to press the brakes and they're not working. That's a bad time to find out when you want to stop and can't. It's the same.
Correct. I
And
think
it can be equally as bad if you over oil it. You know, don't squeeze that oil like you're trying to squeeze the last bit of toothpaste out. It only takes 2 or 3 drops to lubricate it. That's it. And in some cases, 1 or 2 drops, really. The less you can put on it, the better, but you got to coat it.
Gotcha. Now, I seen a question that I wanted to get to. The sister posed the question: are all guns technically legal in all states? I think that's a good question.
So I'll say this: it depends on. Let's do handguns. So for the most part, the issue is going to come down to number of rounds. With that, your pistols that have certain states like California, and they've been fighting it for a while. California, you couldn't have a magazine that had more than 10 rounds in it. So me being from Florida, when I traveled, I went to LA a few times. I had to take a gun that only had a 10-round magazine. So for them, they didn't care about if you have, say, a 15-round magazine and you only put 10 rounds in it. Didn't matter. The magazine capacity can't be more than 10. So that can vary state by state. So a good resource for that is handgunlaw.us. It's a website that gives you a lot of information when it comes down to the laws in each particular state. And that even goes with states' reciprocity with recognizing the concealed weapons permits or licenses from other states as well. It's handgunlaw.us.
Thanks for that information. I didn't even know that. That's great information to know, because I know in New York you're not allowed to have guns, period, right? If I'm not mistaken.
So it was like that, and it just recently changed.
Oh, okay, got you.
Just recently changed, yes.
Oh, so now you got to, now you got to know the update. And also another thing that I've heard about was that traveling with your gun from state to state, you would have to get permission for that. Is that correct?
No, not, you don't have to get permission. So say, for instance, us here in Florida, you get Florida's concealed weapons license. Florida's license is recognized in 36 other states. So they have reciprocity. So that means, let's say I go to Georgia. Georgia recognizes Florida's license as if it was issued by them. So again, you have to be careful. For instance, California doesn't recognize Florida's license. So if I'm in LA I have to move as if I don't have a concealed weapons license. So the firearm can't be on me if I'm out there. But if I'm in good old Georgia, Texas, any of those places, I'm good. I can have my firearm on me. So it's just little nuances like that when it comes down to laws that people really need to be abreast of, especially for the state that you're in. So like Mr. Holiday said, using YouTube works, but Google is your friend. If you know you got a trip, you're going to Vegas or whatever, look and see what the laws are in Vegas. Just Google it. Does Nevada recognize Florida's concealed weapons license? They do, and you'll have your answer right there. Does New York? No, they do not. Does Illinois? No, they do not. So you move accordingly. But if you don't know, that website that I gave earlier, handgunlaw.us, is a good resource. But you can also Google it and it'll pop up. And I've tested Google to see what it says for different states, and it's accurate.
Okay, cool. I know we got to get up out of here shortly. I know you guys have really dedicated a lot of your time. I definitely want to get a part 2 going on, maybe early next year. Maybe we could do something before Dr. King's Day, and get just the information out there to make sure people are preparing for 2024. But I really appreciate you guys giving your greatest time, bartering your time with us and letting people know how to go about getting their information on their journey towards gun ownership, and doing it in a correct, safe, and respectable and protective way. And I learned a lot. And like I tell people all the time, people always say to me, "Ant, you know a lot." And I say, I really don't know a lot. I only tell you guys what I know. And it seems like I know a lot because I gained a lot of information through listening. So even tonight, I learned a lot, you know what I mean? And I'm always super proud of Bobby and Major, because they kind of keep me in line at times when I don't know things, and give me the perspectives to line up with, to be on the right track. So you always got to have accountability partners and strong men around you to keep you on track. So I appreciate them as well. I'm going to give it over to Major or Bobby, if you guys want to ask anything before I get into the last segment. I did want to shine some light on the crown check tonight, so that people can know it's a little different. It's a little different tonight with the crown check. I just want to shed some light with it, but I definitely want to give you guys any opportunity you guys want to say anything, or any questions, last minute questions or whatever.
I guess I'll say real quickly. First of all, thank you all for having me on here. Really appreciate you. To our people, these phenomenal brothers. Thank y'all also for being on, to disseminate the information to the people. For those who don't know the severity of this particular show, I want you to pay attention to what's going on in regards to the news. If I just need to be a million with you, this is not the time, neither is it the place to take anything lightheartedly. You all need to be trained. You all need to have a method of protection on you, because the predictions is it's not going to be pretty in 2024. It's not pretty now. Sisters, what's the importance of you being knowledgeable in firearms? Is immense. I mean, human trafficking is off the scales in America, especially in places like Florida, Houston, Georgia, so on and so forth. All right. If you're not cognizant as to what's going on around you, you're not gun on. I want you to think about you sitting in a room right now. What would happen by keeping your door right now? Take everything serious, and please train like your life depends on it, because it does. Thank you.
Before
Yeah, I
you,
just want to say
before you
go
hold
ahead,
on,
go
before
ahead.
you log out,
before you log out,
I'm I'm on. Can you give people your information, contact, so they can follow you real quick?
Sure. You can look me up on Facebook at Amun Takala Imatep, which is my name. Or you can also log in, check out the Anubis Gun Club Facebook page we just came up with. And any information you need to know, I have an Instagram page called ATI Tactical. You could go in there and send a request, and I'll go and accept it. And any information you need, feel free. The Anubis Gun Club Facebook group is full of gun knowledge every single day. It's gun knowledge, gun knowledge, gun knowledge, gun knowledge, tactical knowledge. What would you do in this scenario? If there's an active shooter scenario, what do you do? What do you do to get this off of you? What is the definition of this? Because it's all important to know, all important knowledge.
All right, definitely. And it's
Definitely, and it's Anubis.
right there. Go ahead,
Yes,
Major.
sir.
Go ahead, Major. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to say we have an elder in the chat that feels like they were being judged earlier, and I want to make sure we put it out there because the cost thing came up or whatever the case may be, and we need to understand that there are certain people that do have they're on a fixed income and they're asking these questions because it's a genuine concern. So I don't want that elder to feel like, they were being judged or anything. That's not what's going on. Feel free to ask your questions. And, we're going to be mindful of, answering those questions without making you feel judged. All right, sister? I just want you to know that. So, that being said, I want to get back to the point that we were making earlier as well with children and, being mindful and careful about firearms in the presence of children.
Your mic is really
The
bad.
mic is really bad.
I'm not gonna try to move it. If I
Okay,
move
there
it,
you
that
go.
any better?
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I want to speak back to the children issue. When I was a child, the first time I touched a firearm, I was underage. I must have been like in middle school. You know what I mean? And it was in school. You know what I'm saying? The kid brought a firearm to school. We were all taking the gun and, flexing with it and, running around scaring people, whatever. Now I look back and it's like, man, that could have really went left if we would have got caught. You know what I mean? We were literally, threatening people with it and all this type of stuff. And, if anything else, if y'all take anything from this, I want people to take from it, please, please, please get your storage on point and make sure that like you guys are, like we're saying, have these kids educated on how to properly use firearms, and at the same time when you have them in your home, secure them, keep them away from your kids, because some of these same kids that I play with firearms with, that we went to the school and we were brandishing the firearm or whatever, one of those kids got killed later on with that same firearm. You understand what I'm saying? And, just to think back, the gravity of it weighs real heavy on me. You know what I'm saying? Because we were just, playing around and, one of those same kids ended up being a statistic, so we had to be very careful about these things. Go ahead. You want to say something? Someone was saying something? Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that's very important. And, let's at the same time educate ourselves and make sure that we are armed and ready to protect ourselves and armed with the proper knowledge to keep us out of trouble. Because like you mentioned with the whole gun in the car thing, so forth and so on, and carrying it on you, there are certain ways that you can carry it and certain ways that you can't. And I think that site that you put in the chat is going to be very helpful to a lot of people. So I encourage everybody to go there, and I'll land my plane.
Super dope. Super dope. Let me get Mr. Holiday up. You can go ahead and tell everybody where to find you at and any last words you want to give to the people in the public.
First off, I thank everybody for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thanks for this panel. And thanks for the topic by itself, because education is knowledge. You got to arm yourself with the knowledge first before you do anything else. I am the owner of Taught and Loaded Firearm Education Academy. It is just like it is taught, the word taught, the letter N loaded at the end. You can put an @ sign right in front of that, and you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I've been talked into starting to grab the TikTok thingy. You know, I'm not too big on that type of stuff, but I guess I'm gonna go ahead and open up one because that's where the eyes are going nowadays. So, but I'm just big on firearm safety first before you can squeeze the trigger. I always tell you, anybody can squeeze the trigger, but do you really know how to use the gun? Anybody can hold a car straight in the road, but do you really know how to drive? So that to me that goes hand in hand. And as far as my wife, on behalf of my wife, She Loaded. Same thing with her at She Loaded on Facebook as well as Instagram. She has a lot of defense. I wouldn't call them women defense. I mean, because I carry mace, I carry Couboutins. I'd rather hit you with something non-lethal first than hit you with something lethal if I have to. With mace, I can get you at about 12, 14 feet away. And when I learned the one thing people don't know, the effectiveness about mace gets you 3 times, right? Mace gets you initially when you spray it, right? Your skin is burning. Mace is ignited by water, right? So when you're sweating, it's gonna get you again. Before the night is over, when you go take a shower, it's gonna get you again. So mace is really very effective. Most don't know that, And if you get the respiratory cut off, it messes with your respiratory area of breathing. Mace is very, very effective. So I would encourage men or women to have something attached to your keychain or toss it in your pocket, because if you can use that in replace of using your firearm, mace can also spray 4 or 5 people just with 1 or 2 swipes. So you got to think, how do I want to defend myself? Because in some of the books they'll tell you, after you defend your life, be prepared to defend your freedom if you use something of lethality. You know what I mean? So I like what he said. I'm going to land my plane on that.
Mace or pepper spray? Mace or pepper spray?
Yes, I'm glad you
mean,
said. I'm glad
okay,
you said that, Mr. Holiday, about the mace, because there are some people, whether we don't want to believe it or not, that don't want to pick up a gun, period. And I encourage that, because some people will pick up a gun and they might shoot the wrong person. So
Yeah.
instead, I'd rather them pick up some mace that they feel comfortable with and aim that and be very masterful about that. Or
Yeah.
in-person tactics, defense tactics. They're comfortable with that, but some people are just super terrified of guns, and there's alternative ways to protect yourself. So I'm glad you said
Absolutely.
that. Mr. Charles, you're up.
Mr. Charles, you're up.
So again, thanks for the platform, and for everybody who tuned in. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I can be found on Facebook, Instagram, Champion Custom Firearms. My website, championcustomfirearms.com. All of my resources are there. In closing, I just want everyone to make sure they get some form of training from an instructor at some point, whether it be me or anybody else. Find an instructor. There are a lot of qualified instructors out there, a lot of qualified instructors that look like us out there. Find them and use them. You don't have to take a class every day, every month, every week, but take a class at least maybe twice a year. Brush up on those skills, because again, even if you are okay with your firearm, there's room for improvement. And shooting is a diminishing skill. If you don't use it, you lose it. So get training.
All right, and his, again, Champion Custom Firearms. So you guys can follow on all platforms, whatever platform he is on. Follow him. Great guy, knowledgeable. Like I said, you have the Anubis Club, the Gun Club. You guys can follow that. She's Loaded on all IG and Facebook, and TNL, Taught and Loaded Firearm. Phenomenal panel. I guess I love it. I appreciate it, and we're definitely gonna have you guys back for a part 2, because we really need to get this information out there. So this is just the birth of it, just to get people familiarized with it. But there's a lot of people that needs this information, especially going into the next year. Bobby,
real
Drake,
quick.
Drake.
Bobby, Drake.
Who said real
That
quick?
was
That
you.
was
Who
you.
said real quick? That was you, Major?
Yeah, real quick. Two things. I was asking the brother which one is better, or which one do you recommend, mace or pepper spray? And then also I looked for that She Loaded on IG, but I can't find it.
All right, so I'll address the
All
mace.
right, so I'm just a mace.
Mace is the term that we use.
Mace is the term that we use growing up,
You
right?
want to use an
Okay.
OCR.
You want to use those.
That has the three components: the pepper, the respiratory, and the UV lighting. The UV lighting is important because if you spray someone, and you call the police and they go to find someone, and they find the potential suspect, that UV lighting is putting that blue light on them. It's going to show where you sprayed them. So you want to have a pepper spray with all three elements. There's no special grade, no special, as long as it has all three of it, the pepper, the respiratory, and the UV coating. That's what you want. You can get that from Amazon. You can get it from SheLoaded.com, which I'm going to promote because that's my wife's side of the business. But get something. Get that. Don't just walk around, with a hammer or a bat, because you got to get close, to use that weapon. But if you got mace, you can stand about 10, 12 feet away and let them have it.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm sorry, the She Loaded it should be at She Loaded.
At She Loaded.
Yeah, on Instagram.
Yeah, on Instagram.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
My bad.
Self-defense.
She Loaded self-defense.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's it. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I was looking for it. Thanks.
Yeah, She Loaded self-defense.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, thank you so much for everybody being on here. Bobby, you wanted to say something real quick? Oh, Bobby, like he out of there. All right.
No.
Go
Hello,
ahead.
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
I hear you.
No, really appreciate for the brothers for coming on and not thinking it a robbery to share the knowledge and information with us, with the community and the listeners. Definitely valuable information. I personally think it definitely went a long way to really answering some questions because, as is the case with most fear is based in ignorance. You don't know what you don't know. And even though we have resources like YouTube and Google, which is our best friends, sometimes you don't even know what to really search for. You might just type in guns, but you don't necessarily know what questions to ask or how to get the right answers, because just because you pull up a resource or an answer from somewhere doesn't mean that it's the correct answer, even the best answer. And so when you actually have a live person that can actually talk to you, that can give you information and insight, it's definitely going to go a lot further. But it also kind of personalizes things a bit more. So if you already have a fear of firearms, just looking at some text on a screen can feel kind of cold and lifeless. But you're talking to people who do this for a living, they handle firearms, they're not missing legs and feet, they don't have missing eyes or anything, they're safe, they're not one step away from the graveyard, and they're able to really give those kind of answers. It definitely goes a lot further with humanizing it. So definitely appreciate what you guys had to share with us. Thanks so much. Looking forward to having you brothers back again, doing this again. Because I'm sure we're going to get more questions. And, once people see this, there's going to be a whole bunch of other things that they're going to have to ask that didn't get asked the first time. And maybe, hopefully, some people will be inspired by this. They'll actually go out, try some firearms, get some experience. And hopefully their experiences with firearms will lead to new questions that can be answered. So thanks for all the seeds that you guys planted. Thanks for the work you guys are doing. We appreciate you, man.
Definitely. So I did want to highlight, we normally have a crown check where we highlight Black women doing excellent work. And I think tonight would be a great night to highlight some of our Black women that have been empowering. Some of them have made our crown check list before, but let's go ahead and give them some more shine. As you guys know who this is Karina Gaines, the sister that was out there up north, who kind of defended herself and her young son against the cops. Sadly, she died in the process of it. But you know, she was out there thugging her thing with her firearm and trying to protect her family, her boyfriend as well as her son. And you know, ashe to that young lady. We also have Assata Shakur, you know, the queen who basically got a race soldier up off of her, fatally shot him, and then she fled to Cuba, where she's still living in paradise, enjoying her best life, you know, and she has total asylum over there by the government, even though the U.S. is trying to get her back here to face charges. And the Cuban government said, no, she's good. She'll live out her years in Cuba. So shout out to Assata Shakur. As you know, one of the most notorious woman to ever hold a shotgun. So we're looking at Harriet Tubman, you know, and her legendary work that she's done to save so many lives and to get them off of plantations. Imagine them, all those children that weren't born on plantations because of Harriet Tubman. Not only did she rescue herself and the people on the plantation, but she went back. It was recorded over 600 times. She went back and got people. So salute to her and her powers of holding that shotgun. She said, hey, if you go back, I'm gonna shoot you and kill you right here. So just having that gun knowledge and that power led to a revolutionary standpoint, which will forever be iconic in our history. Another one that is very powerful with that shotgun and, you know, put a lot of white people in their place, which is Ida B. Wells. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Ida B. Wells for doing what she was doing. And she tells you all the time that every sister, every person's supposed to have a shotgun in their household. That should be mandatory. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Ida B. Wells. And a lot of people didn't even know that Ida B. Wells was running on the Republican ticket, but we won't go into that because remember the Republican Party was started by Black people. All right. So we definitely wanted to share. Go ahead, Major.
I was just giving props, man. I feel it when you start talking about Ida B. Wells. Go ahead, brother.
No problem, man. So we wanted to give our salute to all the women out there that have been toting around firearms and letting them know that we have their backs. You know, we have to start normalizing and appreciating and uplifting women that are operating in the arms, in their faith of having arms, you know, bearing arms. Remember, the Black Panther Party wasn't only men in there holding shotguns too. Their sisters was out there doing their thing with shotguns as well. They had our backs. And we got to get back to that place. We got to get back to that space. You know, we are the original Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you know, the yin and yang, that's us. Let us continue our greatness together. And we appreciate everybody for coming on tonight. We appreciate our panel. Remember to tell a friend, this is one of the best platforms, podcast platforms that you'll ever come on with great information. It's not like no other. So check in with us each and every Sunday, and we have great information and great topics for you guys and solution-based every week, day in, day out. All right. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next week. All right. Peace out, family.
Thank you so much. Y'all were amazing tonight, man. Real talk.
Wow.
Exactly.
Blessings, everybody.
Okay.
On the album, we do things like songs that are a little, what we call sexy. You can see from the title, it's more of a love album.